Hi, welcome to today's segment of Our Ventura TV. My name is George Alger. Today we're going to be talking about the Hospice of the Conejo. And joining us is the Executive Director, Susan Murata. Welcome, Susan. And let's just start off with the most basic question. What is a hospice?
Thanks for having me. Hospice care is end-of-life care, making a patient as comfortable and as cared for as possible.
Good. And so let's speak about your hospice. Is there many types of hospices and they have a specialty?
Well, what makes Hospice of the Conejo different is we are a non-medical, nonprofit volunteer hospice. So we don't do the medical part of it. The medical hospice, the doctors and nurses come in and provide medications and bathings and all of those type of medical things, IVs, that type of thing. Hospice of the Conejo doesn't do that. We're there for the emotional support and the guidance and to provide respite for the caregiving family members. We're really there to be more like what a friend would do.
Okay. How does a person or a family, reach a point where they recognize a need for this kind of service?
Well, for medical hospice, a patient has to have stopped all corrective treatment and have a 6-month prognosis from their doctor. Hospice of the Conejo, we don't require that. And many people are very ill and they need help, but they don't qualify for medical hospice. And in-home care is extremely expensive and they can't afford it. So our volunteers are able to come in sometimes for months and even years before they qualify for medical hospice and take care of them. Make a meal, brush their hair, help them with general grooming needs, and just be a friend and just help them through this very, very difficult and fearful time.
Okay. So would it be safe for me to presume then that Hospice of the Conejo and maybe, other hospices as well represent a service at home as opposed to going somewhere?
In California, that's the case. In some states, they do have hospice care facilities, but in California, it's usually in-home care or at an assisted living or board and care facility. And that's where our volunteers go. That's where most of the medical hospices provide care, is in the home.
Okay. And as a nonprofit, do you work with hospitals or social agencies, or is it really kind of networking out in the community?
Well, the volunteer piece of hospice, that emotional support, that friendship piece, that person that goes into the home just to provide a sense of normalcy, that's part of medical hospice too. So medical hospices always have a volunteer piece. Hospice of the Conejo, that's all we do, but we do work with medical hospices to provide our volunteers in the home. Again, to give that comfort and that reassurance and that guidance to the patient and to the family members.
Yeah, now speak a little bit more about this relationship with the family members. Is this really sort of taking over a large part of family activity or family care, or it's really just an adjunct to it?
It's just support and help and guidance for the family members. I mean, this, in most cases, this is an overwhelming experience for them. It's the first time they've dealt with a terminal illness, and then it's with a loving family member. So sometimes they're just absolutely overwhelmed. They can't leave the house because they're caring for the person. So our volunteers will go in for 2 or 3 hours and stay with the patient so that family member can, go to the grocery store, maybe get their hair done, go play golf, just to have some kind of respite. And that's a big part of what our volunteers do. Sometimes the patients, don't need as much care as the family members do. And that's what our
Mm.
volunteers are there to do, is to really support the family through this as well.
Good. Now speak a little bit more about the volunteers.
our volunteers are our lifeblood, our heart of Hospice of the Conejo. We provide our volunteers 8 weeks of training. It's 1 day a week, 4 hours each session, and it really provides them with the knowledge to understand what hospice and palliative care is, and to give them the tools so that they are there to be or are able to be of help and help people understand what this process, what they're going through. But they are, they're angels. They're angels.
And what kind of person would, I don't know, qualify as a volunteer?
Well, it's somebody that maybe has gone through the experience before. We don't really have any qualifications other than they understand that they are making a very large commitment of time and again, heart. But it's usually a person that maybe went through the experience with a family member and now they want to give back. Or maybe just somebody that's recently retired. We have a doctor that retired recently and he didn't want to stop, giving. So he went through our training and he goes into patients' home, doesn't do anything medical, but he's just there to help them. So it's usually somebody that has a heart for this. It's not easy. It's not easy, but it's extremely rewarding and it is extremely needed in this community.
What could you say to someone who is interested in volunteering in some way to help the community and maybe considering this, but they're really not sure if they could be a good fit? How could you help someone bridge that understanding?
Well, I would tell them to go through the training. The training's very open, very candid discussions about death and dying and about what they would experience. And we do have other volunteer opportunities. We have other programs that, aren't the hospice care. But as far as hospice care, I would recommend they go through the training. We offer it twice a year. And some people tell us when they go through the training that everybody in the community should go through this because they learn so much in a practical way about death and dying, which we all are going to face eventually someday. And many of us are afraid of it. And this demystifies it, and it just gives people comfort to go through this training. So that's what I would recommend. They come to our training.
Very good. Susan, when you're out in the community and you tell someone what you do, what's the most common question that people ask you?
Oh gosh, well, I'll tell you the thing I hear the most is that they had no idea that Hospice of the Conejo was here to help, that there actually was a service that people would go free of charge into their home to help them during this time, because it's so overwhelming. So that's usually what I hear, that they are just so grateful that there is an organization. And I failed to mention this, everything we do, we provide completely free of charge. So they're just overwhelmed that we're there to help like that. And it's a big problem in our country where we just don't have a lot of services free for people that are, suffering like this, that have these issues. And again, it may not be somebody that qualifies for that medical hospice where maybe Medicare would pay for it. They can't have somebody, a nurse or anybody in their home to clean their home or make a meal. It's too expensive. So for an organization like us, we are so needed by people.
And if someone contacted you and was interested in the service, is there a waiting list?
No, thank goodness. I mean, we have about 100 volunteers, trained volunteers on our roster. We normally have about 35 patients a month that we're caring for, but we have the capacity to do more. So no, there's a process that we go through, starting with an intake, and then we go into the patient's home to make sure that we understand their needs and their expectations. And then we take great care to pair them with a volunteer that has similar interests and similar beliefs. and that type of thing. So there is a process. It takes about a week from the initial call until we're able to provide a volunteer in the home.
Very good. Susan, we're just about out of time here. I wonder if you could sneak in the website and if you have a very brief summating message you might have for the viewers.
Yeah, our website is hospiceoftheconejo.org. We provide, besides the volunteer hospice care, we have grief support for people of all ages, all walks of life, again, completely free of charge. There's other things that we do. We're there to help. And we invite people to give us a call, 805-495-2145, or go to our website and get more information. We're a non-medical hospice, so we don't get any money or support from Medicare or insurance. So we're a donation-based organization, and they can go on our website and make donations too if their heart speaks to them.
Thank you so much, Susan. We're going to end off here.
Thank you so much for having us.
This is George Alger signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until we meet again.